When talking about The Legend of Zelda's most important aspects, you might think of the story, the gameplay, the dungeons, and I think we can all agree that bosses are also on that list. Some of our favorite Zelda memories consist of getting to the end of a dungeon and sweating in anticipation to find out what boss we would be facing after we opened that door. Rarely have we ever been disappointed with what we saw.
Zelda games have had some of the most amazing bosses in video game history, so today we will count down the 10 best Zelda bosses of all time. Keep in mind that for this list we will only be going over main bosses, not mini-bosses, and most importantly not the final boss, so no Majora, Ganon's Demise, Malladus here. But don't fret, as we will go over both of these in separate videos. Now, without further ado, let's begin with number 10.
Are you aware of a certain video game called Shadow of the Colossus? Well, Zelda was basically Shadow of the Colossus before Shadow of the Colossus. By the way, I'm not crapping on Shadow of the Colossus. If you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend you get the remake on PS4 anyway. The next boss gives off some serious Colossus vibes, and it is Mulgarath from the Wind Waker. On one hand, this boss is incredibly easy, even if you're facing it for the first time. There are no phases to it, all you have to do is attack its tongue by reeling it in with the hook shot. All you do in between is avoid baby Mulgaraths and the Big Mama itself. Yeah, it's simple, but you can't deny that Mulgarath is a spectacle to behold. Don't lie, you know you soiled your pants when you first saw this massive creature. Truth be told, spectacle still plays an important part in how good a Zelda boss is. A boss can be ridiculously easy, but if it is a truly cinematic and engaging experience, it could be really good. That is the reason why Mulgarath is only number 10 on our list, because even though it looks amazing, the challenge it offers just isn't enough. Quite a few Zelda bosses are based on actual animals, mythical creatures, and even extinct beasts. One of these examples is the dinosaur king Dodongo, but we will do you one better. See the Halma King from A Link to the Past. The Halma King is the perfect combination of challenging and enjoyable. Like most 2D Zelda bosses, it only has one phase, and you must keep attacking the giant green part on its head to defeat it, all the while avoiding its long tail and projectile fireballs that will explode into more fireballs. You better hope you have a fairy equipped during this boss battle, because dodging that tail and fire is as hard as it sounds. There isn't much to the Halma King as it is very simple, but it is easily the best dungeon boss battle in the iconic A Link to the Past.
You might have assumed this already, but most of the bosses on our list are from 3D Zelda games. Understandably, you can do a lot more with bosses in a 3D setting as opposed to a 2D one, but this next contender is no doubt the most unique and interesting boss battle in a 2D Zelda game. In the Minish Cap, these bosses are waiting for you at the end of the Palace of the Winds. And yes, I said these bosses. The Gorg Pair are a duo of gigantic manta rays that fly in the sky, and they carry you on their backs with the intention of killing you. Fortunately, you are the dominant one in this situation, since the male Gorg will carry you to the female Gorg, and you must use the white sword to multiply yourself and attack the group of eyes. Yes, it's an eye-based boss, all the while using Rock's cape to jump and avoid attacks from the other Gorgs. You must also do the same when riding on the smaller male. Rinse and repeat until they are both destroyed. The Gorg Pair is a great boss battle for many reasons. 1. 2D Zelda boss battles have been fairly simple for a long time. And 2. Boss battles that involve twins are usually not very exciting. The Gorg Pair defies both of those stereotypes with an epic boss fight set in the sky and jumping between platform to platform. Only this time the platforms are the enemies themselves. What we wouldn't give to see something like this in a 3D Zelda game.
Riddle me this. What is worse than one Ganon? Two Ganons, obviously. We're talking, of course, about Phantom Ganon. He's respectively appeared in Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Four Swords Adventures. But which appearance was the best one? I think we can all agree that his debut in Ocarina of Time has yet to be matched. Here we are at the end of the Forest Temple in a room with paintings on all sides. Then lo and behold, Ganon himself shows up sooner than expected. Surprise, it was the evil spirit from beyond, Phantom Ganon. For this battle, you'll have to be on your toes at all times, because he will be coming out of one of these paintings to deal a devastating lightning attack. The first phase is easy, as he only appears out of one painting, but then he brings clones into the equation, and it's your job to find out which Phantom Ganon is the real one. After a bit, he gets tired of the illusions, and you must battle him in a good old match of tennis. And this certainly won't be the last time you play tennis against Ganon. Phantom Ganon has not been in many games, but his debut in Ocarina of Time is one that is quite simply unforgettable.
As we all should know by now, Majora's Mask was only made in a year, meaning that some parts of the game weren't given as much attention as the dungeons and story. Yeah, this game doesn't have the most impressive bosses in the Zelda series. However, you can't talk about this game without bringing masked mechanical monster, Gort. Gort? Or is it Goat? He's clearly not a goat, but a mechanical bull, but we'll just call him Gort for now. This is a boss that takes advantage of the game's mask mechanic perfectly. By putting on the Goron mask, you roll after this beast at what seems as the speed of sound and bring it to a dramatic halt. But in the 3DS version, a giant eye pops out of it. What is the deal with Zelda bosses on ice? Can we just pump the brake for a minute? The Nintendo 64 version lets you attack Gort in its regular form, but they just had to add an eye in the 3DS version because I guess the fight was too hard for some? But with that said, Gort, especially in the N64 version, implements the gameplay styles of Majora's Mask in a fun and unique way. You wouldn't be able to take on this boss without the Goron mask, since until we'll see another game like Majora's Mask, we will not have a boss as unique as Gort.
Throughout Twilight Princess, there is one evil that has personally inflicted pain to Hyrule, and that one is none other than Zant. First by collaborating with Ganondorf to overthrow and curse the Princess of Twilight Midna, then by cursing the Twilight to serve him and invade the Kingdom of Hyrule, force Princess Zelda to a humiliating surrender, cover Hyrule in Twilight, curse Link, and mortally wound Midna, and awake another monster in the Arbiter's grounds. Then he returns back to the Twilight Realm, where he awaits the return of the Twilight Princess and her chosen hero. And this is where the intimidating facade collapses as Zant reveals the true maniac that he really is. The fight against the Usurper King Zant is just like the person itself, batshit crazy, as it brings us to multiple boss and mini-boss locations from the Forest Temple, Goron Mines, Lakebed Temple, and Snow Peak Ruins. Throughout all of these, you need to use specific dungeon items to drag Zant to you and give him a real whooping. This multi-stage fight is like a gourmet meal, which culminates in a completely insane confrontation outside Hyrule Castletown, where Zant loses his mind and charges desperately to slice you down. The battle against Zant is insanity, and ends with a satisfying end to the Usurper King and Tyrant after he reveals that Ganon has returned. The build-up, multi-stage nature, and climactic final phase of this battle is more than enough for Zant to make it to top 5 on this list. Skyward Sword is filled with some incredible dungeons and neat items. However, the best boss of them all lies appropriately at the end of the Ancient Cistern, the game's best dungeon. I'm of course talking about Coloctus, the Ancient Automation. This gigantic structure uses all 6 arms to its advantage, always using 2 to cover its weak point, but it's no match for our whip. While the boss is throwing blades at you, it will use its other arms to attack you if you get way too close. Then the arms get stuck in the ground, and it's your job to whip them off. Eventually, he will use all the available arms, leaving you to attack the weak point. Just when you think you got it, he grows legs. Still, he's not that smart. He will get his arms stuck in the ground, leaving behind his gigantic blades, and it just so happens these blades are enough to attack the protected weak point. Rinse and repeat. Coloctus is a gigantic menacing foe that earns its number 4 spot on the list. While other Skyward Sword bosses also utilize the motion controls and items, Coloctus is probably the most fun boss in the entire game.
The can't talk about great Zelda bosses without bringing up the Twilit fossil Star-Lord. In a way, this boss fight is kind of like Mulgarath. It takes place on sand, it has minions that attack you, and most importantly, it can be an easy boss fight. I say can be because once you know what you're doing, Star-Lord isn't much of a challenge. Even for first timers, it isn't that hard to figure it out since it takes place about halfway through the game. That said, Star-Lord is still a highly creative boss battle from a design perspective. You can only maneuver your way around the arena using your newly acquired spinner, and it is your weapon against the giant skeletal beast and its minions. After attacking its spine over and over, it gives you the impression that you're done. Spoiler alert, you're not. The sun dissipates, and you're only left with the creature's floating head, engaging in the most exciting phase of the boss battle. You then use the spinner to reach the heights that the head is located and jump to dodge its fireballs. Then you knock it down to the ground and use your sword against it. One more time and you're done. Sure, Star-Lord may not be that hard of a boss fight, but that pretty much goes for all bosses in Twilight Princess. But my god, is this fight a spectacle to behold. I can't imagine one person that would be disappointed after finishing him off. Truly, it was the most satisfying boss battle in the entire game, save for the final boss of course.
Oh, you knew that we had to include this fight. After building up over none less than 2 previous boss fights, things get serious when Rahim knocks you, Groose, and Impa out in order to bring Zelda back to the past and free his master Demise from his seal. Rahim is more determined than ever to keep you away, as he sends hordes of bokoblins, moblins, and stalfos to stop you. And when this fails and you interrupt his ritual, he reveals his true form, and it is a sight to behold. At first, his hardened form might seem impregnable, as you have to knock him down platform to platform in order to pierce the jewel on his chest. Throughout this process, you have to align your Wiimote to surpass Rahim's barriers until he is cast back down to the surface. This is, however, only the first stage of this epic battle, since at this point, Rahim pulls out his rapier and does what he can to strike you down. When this leads to nothing, he resorts to summon his massive broadsword, which has to be broken in half to deal the final blow. Even then, Rahim has the final laugh, as he ultimately succeeds in his mission to resurrect his master, and once again serve him as his blade in the final battle against the hero of the sky. This one, however, is not even close to the awesomeness that is the final personal showdown against Rahim.
Final boss fights were omitted from this countdown, as we are saving them for a future list. But DLC fights are an exception from this rule, as they are not an end to the game, but rather a paid extension. This is definitely the case for the grand final of the Champion's Ballad, the final trial and its boss, Monk Mas Koshia. This fight has what we have to consider a perfect build-up. Upon finally opening the massive main gate, you are greeted by another Sheikah monk, who similarly to the other monks found in the 120 Sheikah shrines, first congratulates you on your accomplishment, but then, rather of blessing you and dissolving into particles, rises up and offers you one final challenge. Words can't describe how amazing this fight is, from the already mentioned build-up, the battle itself, to the final reward bestowed to you afterwards. But let's take it in one step at a time. First, you're warped to the levitating battle platform high above Hyrule, as Mas Koshia doesn't mess around and goes straight down to business.
From here on out, the Master Monk throws everything he has at his disposal to test if you are truly worthy of the title of Hero of Hyrule. And he does it with the usage of ancient Sheikah warrior tactics, utilizing ancient blades, strikes from above, summoning clones to camouflage, ambush, and spread confusion, and unleash some truly devastating attacks that can kill Link if his defensive game is not on point. In this battle, all your skills are put to the test. Your ability to use the Sheikah runes to your advantage, your sword and arrow skills, you name it. You need to master your offensive, defensive, and tactical game in order to bring this literal giant down to its knees. In other words, Monk Mas Koshia is the culmination of what a Zelda boss should be, with multiple phases, an arsenal of weapons and attacks that are bent on demonstrating to Link that in order to beat him, you have to use everything in your massive arsenal. And this is what sums up the role of the boss. It is supposed to be the exam of the temple you just completed to see if you are able to use what you learned throughout the world of Hyrule. This, and the extremely satisfying aftermath where you are accepted as the true hero by this Master Warrior and granted the Sheikah ancient masterpiece, the Master Cycle 0. This is why we love this fight more than any other in the series. Well, with the exception of 1 or 2 final boss fights, but we will cover them extensively in another video.
For now, make sure to like, and if you're new, subscribe and press that notification bell for all notifications to not miss that one and the other future Zelda videos that will be uploaded every Saturday from now on. And when we reach 200k subscribers, a little over 12k to go, we will launch a brand new Zelda series that you all will love. Also, make sure to comment under the video, what are your favorite boss fights in the series, as we would love to see the different opinions on this important topic.
Finally, we want to thank all our gracious patrons, and in particular, royal producers Kenyatta Ali and Bradley Carriage for their support to the realm. You can join them too in helping us finance more ambitious Zelda productions by heading over to patreon.com/commonrealm and also claim your perks. Until the next video, this was Conrad and Joseph of the Commonwealth Realm, and we will see you girls and guys soon.